Oh my God.
Let's get started. Drive safely. Then turn right on Craft Street. Turn left on Washington Street. In 1.4 miles, turn right on Elm Street.
I'm an old man now. Young folks don't pay me no mind. But in my day, so I fell and I'm an old man now. Kind of living. Had enough of this gonna trade my trouble. I will make my way across the fields of cotton and wade through muddy waters one last time. And in my dreams I come out clean when I reach the other side, where the sun sets, with rainbows and fire. I've got one last thing to do, one more mile before I'm through, casting off these earthly chains, for where there's no more pain.
In 1,000 feet, use the right lane to turn right on Elm Street. Then turn left.
I will make my way across the fields of cotton and wade through muddy waters one last time. And in my dreams I come out clean when I reach the other side, west of where the sun sets, where rainbows and fire.
right on Elm Street. Then turn left on Webster Street. Turn left on Webster Street.
Come down from your mouth. Oh, I miss your holy shout. These days I can't make a sound. Take me to the towns where we look up to the skies and climb up there and draw the thunder down. Now I'm forcing myself into what you've already been.
In 3/4 of a mile, turn left on Lexington Street.
You need something stronger, a drug to kill the hunger, ease the awful pain. Well, I'm the kind of love it hurts to look at. Maybe we should take it as a sign. When I'm strung out on leave, exalting all my demons, you don't care for me enough to cry.
In 1,000 feet, turn left on Lexington Street. Then keep right.
You'd say you forgive me. We'd live out some easy ancient song. Now we're higher unattended in splendid love's romantic.
Turn left on Lexington Street. Then use the right lane to keep right to Commonwealth Avenue.
And I'm the kind of love it hurts to look at. Once I was enough to make you try. Now I'm underneath the rubble, trying not to feel the trouble. You don't care for me enough to cry. So here's to hoping I can change tomorrow. You want it hard as nails couldn't dry. But I beg, steal and borrow. I'm so damn good at sorrow.
Use the right lane to keep right. Then turn right on Commonwealth Avenue. Turn right on Commonwealth Avenue. In 3/4 of a mile, exit to I-95 North, Waltham, Portsmouth, Norumbega Road. 1,000 feet. Use the right lane to exit right. Then keep left.
It's been 15 years since I left home. Said good luck to
Exit right to I-95 North, Waltham, Portsmouth, Norumbega Road. Then keep left to I-95 North.
now Redbird, what do you see?
Keep left at I-95 North.
Looking at me, head in the clouds, but arm beside the tree. Ooh, I guess he's doing alright. And it's a great day to be alive. I know the sun's still shining when I close my eyes. It's a hard times in the neighborhood.
Continue straight for 25 minutes to I-95 North, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Sometimes it's lonely, sometimes it's only me and the shadows that fill this room. Sometimes I'm falling, desperately calling, howling at the moon. It's a colorful life. It's neither black or white, or just shades. Maybe I'm only a fool and it's a great day to be alive. I know the sun's still shining when I close my eyes. It's a hard times in the neighborhood, but why can't every day be just this good? It's a great day to be alive. I know the sun's still.
Hey everyone, we got a little sponsor here. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from where you use it for some more podcasts in the future. It's everything you need to make. Happy Thursday, and if you're listening to this on a Wednesday, you're early. Wow, congratulations, you're early. You are a diehard fan, and I love you. I do. If you're listening to this on a Friday, hello from the past. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Tyrone Rose Show. This one shouldn't be too long. I'm trying to take a couple mental breaks here, which is why the last couple of podcasts have been a little bit delayed. I've been going back and forth between Sunday and Wednesday. I'm fucking tired, man. Whew, I am freaking exhausted. I was thinking about taking next week off from the Circle Club, but there's too much stuff going on. You know, we got Gossip Girl on Thursday. Gonna do a big watch party for that. Loki's going on. It's getting close to the season finale, and I'm like, we can't take days off. What are we talking about here? You know, we're in the grind. When you're in the grind, no days off. What do we got today? So,
Watch out, vehicle on shoulder ahead.
Post Office, Hooters, Quentin Tarantino. Where do I begin? Why don't we start with this? I think I'm going to start making people take an IQ test to hang out with me, because I am so tired of talking to stupid fucks, honestly. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves is going back and forth with people where I explain a point, but they can't remove their emotional connection to the argument. I'm like, dude, I don't care about winning this argument. I want the right answer. Like, why the fuck do people argue not to find a solution? It makes no sense whatsoever. It drives me up the wall. Like, who cares who's right in the end? Let's get to the fucking bottom of it. It's just the worst. Every argument should be about finding a solution. If you can't find a solution, or how do you prevent this from this issue in the future, what's the point? Like, example, if you're fighting with your partner, let's say about the dishes, right? One person does it this way, the other person does it the other way, you can't come to an agreement, so you say, okay, from now on, what are we going to do from here? It's not about, like, Oh, I told you to do it this way. I told you to put the plates on top, and then this is how you handled it. Or, babe, you always do this wrong. You're supposed to put the cups on the bottom. That's why we got that smut on there. Like, okay, once you've gotten that out of your system, why don't you have a conversation about what happens next? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, there are people out there who will just go, you know, when you're arguing, they go, I'm taking my ball and going home. Such losers. Like, figure out a solution or the same thing is going to happen over and over. I have a friend I was arguing with this week about, I can't even tell you what it was about, and like, I'm just going back and forth. I'm like, listen, fine, if it's going to please your ego, you're right, whatever, you win, I don't care. Now, how do we prevent this from happening again in the future? And this person is such an emotionally weak fucking person that they just gave up. I'm like, obviously I'm here having this conversation with you because I care about you, because I'm trying to figure out how to keep you in my life. I don't think people realize this about me. There's a lot of people out there who I have muted, I have blocked, I'm ignoring. Like that annoying fuck I was telling you guys about 2 weeks ago. Blocked that person out of my life, don't want anything to do with them, ignored or muted or whatever. And they just keep liking my stuff and all that. There's going to be a lot of people, I think, when I get married one day, and there's like, hey, where's my invitation? And I'm going to be like, buddy, the writing's been on the wall for quite some time here. Like, I said it before, like, my favorite line is when people are like, oh, you've changed. And you tell them, you haven't? Like, if I was friends with you 5 years ago and we haven't had any communication really, we haven't stayed in touch, I don't know how the rest of the world works, but in Tyrone Rose's world, you and I aren't really friends. We're acquaintances, if that. My circle club, that is very small. I don't just let anyone into my circle. And if you've been in that inner circle at one point, that's not like a lifetime membership. Like, you gotta fucking renew your annual fees. Put the work in, my God. It's funny, because I have a friend right now who's kind of going through it, and they're kind of realizing that same thing of like when you get around like 25, 26, where you just start to say, I don't care anymore. I'm not gonna pretend to be friends with people. I'm not gonna try to fit in. If you don't like me for the way I am, sayonara. That's how you have to be. And it's interesting because all of my friends who are really, really on their creative shit right now, their creative juices flowing and, you know, going viral and doing all this other stuff, all of those friends have tied into that, where they're like, I'm just going to remove toxic people out of my life. I'm not going to answer their text messages. I'm not going to respond to them. When they ask me to hang out, I'm just going to leave them on red. Like, that's what people don't get, is once you're no longer a child, you're an adult, you do not have to see people you do not want to see. Once you are an adult, you no longer have to see people you don't want to see. You don't have to respond to people you don't want to respond to. You don't have to hang out with people you don't want to hang out with. That is the glorious nature of being an adult. You don't have to give a fuck. I'm exercising that a lot these days, and I love it. My mental health has been total shit recently, and I'm like, oh great, please don't fall down this spiral. But the other day, it was fun. I decided to take a little break for myself after work, and we went into the pool. So we decided to go to the pool before tea time on Tuesday. It was fun. It was me and Carly, and I was like, all right, yeah, let's spend this time together, hang out. And I'm like rushing home because the pool closed at 7. I get out of work at 5. God fucking knows why I can't work remote. And I get home, it's like 5:45. I'm like, holy crap, I beat the traffic. Maybe it was like 5:35. I think I cut off like 7 minutes. That's the thing with Waze. I fucking love it. I feel like a NASCAR driver. Whenever I see Waze, it's like, hey, you're gonna get home in 45 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, watch me. I love it. I love beating the Waze. And so I get home in like 35 minutes after 5. And I'm like, perfect, I got enough time. So I get my trunks on, and Carly wanted me to get like one of those floaty things, those floaty chairs, and I bought a pump to do it. Dude, I was pumping that thing for like 7 minutes, and I was just making no progress. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I switch over to the donut, I get that thing going, but the big floaty couldn't work, so I'm like, all right, I gotta take this thing back. But anyway, so I finished that, I got my trunks on, I'm walking out, and Luna just gives me this, my cat Luna gives me this stank look like, oh, you're leaving again for her? These two women pitting themselves against for me. It's hilarious. But she's just like, ugh, for her. I'm just like, babe, I'm sorry, I'll be back soon.
Watch out, vehicle on shoulder ahead.
Oh, it's so funny. They love each other too. They're like the friendliest thing. But as soon as I get involved, ladies, don't let men divide you. Okay? You're stronger together than separated. Okay? But anyways, so I get to the pool, and I'm like, awesome. I'm loving it. I'm like, wow, this is actually really a lot nicer than I thought. Gated community type shit. And when I get in there, I jump in for like literally 3 minutes, and the lifeguard heard like the lightest bit of thunder. I shit you not. I was in the fucking pool for 3.5 minutes, and I had to get out. And I was like, great. So, I'm trying to fix my mental health here. I'm trying not to get angry. I'm trying to, I'm like, all right, I know I want to go shoot this podcast and cut some footage and do some other stuff, but, you got to exercise good mental health, people. You have to sometimes. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to do this. And, of course, I got kicked out after 3.5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, fuck me. But I tried to stay positive. I said, whatever, we got tea time. And I actually did that show, and we kind of threw it together on a whim. But I found a formula to kind of make the show a little easier on myself, where I have the video sliding and going through. That way when I edit later, it's not as much work. So that was a plus. That was a positive. The show ended up really doing really well as well. There's good people in there, a lot of interaction. You just got to, I was telling Matt this the other day too, I was like, you just got to look at things from a different perspective sometimes, where you're like, all right, this situation sucks, but how do you look at it from a positive light? Obviously, there's some things where, it's just negative and you got to eat it, but you just got to turn it around sometimes. So ever since then, I've been a little bit more on an up, but, that's the thing, the season of depression, it just comes and goes, it comes and goes. There last week, it was cool. I got to send a supporter / fan, I don't know what people call it. I feel like fan's a little weird. I'm like, we're not really there yet. A supporter. I got to send them a Circle Club shirt.
Police reported ahead.
Was a lot of fun, but I had to go to the post office and oh, shoot me, please shoot me. The post office sucks. There is nothing good about that place. Like, you go in there and it's like the life just gets sucked out of you. You ever see that show, oh god, what is it, with the vampires? Oh man, it's gonna kill me. Hold on, let me look this up. Hulu vampire show. Oh, What We Do in the Shadows. So there's this vampire called it's a energy vampire, where he basically just sucks the life out of you with boring conversations, and that's what the post office is. You just go in there and it's just like, next, I can help you with this. And to their credit, they were very helpful. They had those like, resting bitch face kind of thing going on. So you're like, oh boy, are these dudes gonna like chew me out because I don't know how much a fucking stamp costs. But no, they were really helpful, but it's just so lifeless and slow in there, and like, you could just tell everything's done. Like, I thought he was gonna give me a fucking receipt that he like wrote out like the information, seriously, with a quilt.
In 5.1 miles. Keep right to I-95 North, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
It's just so slow in there, and everyone in line is so miserable. But again, there's these moments that you have where you realize you're grateful. There was a guy behind me, or like two people behind me or so, and his whole face must have been like burnt or something, because like it was like the side of his face was just super bubbled, and like you could tell he couldn't really talk as normal. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. I was like, boy, am I glad I'm not looking like that, And not to shit on the guy or anything, but it's just like, those little moments would make you go, all right, dude, you have the worst thing you have right now is you're sending a package to support you, and your life is good. So sometimes you have to have that type of thing happen. And it's weird. I've been working on my patients like the last 10 years. I swear to God. And Carly's really helped that. But like the last 2 years, and it has nothing to do with COVID. It's been like slowly breaking. I became a really patient person, but like the last 6 to 9 months, it's been really rough. I don't know if it's because of the job I'm at. I don't know if it's just some quarter-life crisis shit or something. But yeah, I'm my patience is just wearing thin, and I'm like, oh, great. It was funny too, because when I was in the post office, this guy was talking about how old he is, and he was like, oh, I'm 85. And the person goes, oh, 85 years young. And I'm like, that kind of funny. People who go oh, I'm 85 years young rather than old. It's kind of like they're trying to hold on to the glory years, like they're in high school or something. The football player or that guy in college, he's just like, oh, back in the day, everyone knew I was this great football player. Or oh, yeah, everyone knew me, I was a singer, or whatever the case may be. It's like, dude, just say you're 85 years old. It's fine that you're old. You're getting old. It's a terrible joke, too. It's like 85 years young. It's like, you're not young, okay? You're not fucking young. You're old, and that's fine. People need to embrace more of who they are in society. Old people try to be young. You get fucking Hugh Hefner types, and then you got young people. It's not worse when you see a young person trying to be old. I'm like, dude, just enjoy your life for what you're at right now, Be stupid and silly and have fun and chase after girls or whatever the case may be. If you're in a heterosexual relationship and you're a girl, make those stupid little cootie catchers or whatever, those kind of things. I feel like that's kind of what makes life fun, is when you look back at one of those things like, oh my god, this was so stupid and embarrassing, but I loved it, I had to go into Hooters the other day. Oh my god. The stench of desperation of Hooters. For those, oh, excuse me. The stench of desperation of Hooters. For those of you who don't know what America is like, walk into fucking Hooters. You have teens celebrating with booze. You got dads exposing their young children to booty way too early. There was a guy with like a Second Amendment hat. I mean, it literally had the number 2 with a 2 assault rifle.
In 1 mile, use the right 2 lanes to keep right to I-95 North, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Forming the Second Amendment. I'm like, is this a fucking joke? I felt like I was on the Truman Show. I mean, there was a guy who asked one of the waiters what day she works. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. She's like 19 and you're like 50 plus if you're, you know, on a good day. I mean, that place is a special kind of place for degenerates. Oh, so what were you doing there, Tyrone? What makes you so much better? Takeout. Okay? Takeout is what makes me better than those fucking people. I wasn't sticking around. Like, honestly, there was a guy in there who had his 3 young daughters, and I was like, and I'm not shitting. This is a funny thing about this. It's like, I'm not shitting on the Hooters ladies. You know, they're good looking, and they got nice bodies, and they're taking advantage of these pathetic people who want to give them money. Godspeed. And, you know, I'm guilty of it, you're guilty of it, we're all guilty of it. If you're attractive in this world, life is easier for you. It's just scientifically proven. More attractive people have life easier, they have things given to them, people want to be their friends. When you're young,
keep right to I-95 North, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
You know, everyone thinks you're cool or popular, but they don't know why. Because you're attractive, according to, like, you know, society's standards. And because everyone likes you, that builds confidence, right?
Continue straight for 25 minutes to cash tolls.
And when you build confidence and you actually become a leader, kind of, you get more opportunity, more selection, you're the leader in the class because people like you. It's just like, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. You think of every person who's quote unquote a leader or in a position of power, when they were younger, they probably were attractive.
Watch out, vehicle on shoulder ahead.
And if not, they had money. Because we all know fucking money can get you anything. But yeah, Hooters is just a disgusting establishment to like be in. But the food was delicious. The food was delicious. But it was just so funny because every single guy in there like has asked one of those women their schedule about the culture of Hooters. This one guy literally was like, hey, like, how do you feel about the culture of Hooters around here? Like, you know, are they paying you guys enough? Oh, that's awful. I'm like, come on. Do you really care about the fucking culture of Hooters? Like, excuse me, so how many of you are here? It seems like you could use a little bit more staff. So, how much do you guys all get paid? What? That's unbelievable. You guys need to get paid more. How do you determine what uniform to wear? Sir, you're staring at her tits, not her eyes. There's no way you care about her hourly wage and the working conditions of a fucking Hooters person. You know, it's like, how about teachers? What about the teachers union? Do you care about them at all? Anyway, so after that, I went back with Carly. We ate. We had a good time. And yeah, it was really just a sad sight to behold, really. I went into Boston last weekend with my mom. We were making some more shirts. We're cleaning up, so that was a lot of fun. We got a lot of good stuff as far as shirts and production coming in. eventually. I don't really want to charge people right now. I want to get the brand out more. I want to get the website out more, YouTube. Just feels premature to sell stuff. But
Police reported ahead.
you guys let me know. You think it might be stupid about this? I do want to do something though. If I do sell, where like every month we choose a different place for the proceeds to go to, and we just kind of make this a lifetime thing we do, because I fucking hate. There's nothing I hate more when it's like Pride Month and everyone's like, donate to the LGBTQ plus community, or it's like Black History Month and they're like, oh, donate to these 3 black communities. It's like, dude, you should be doing this shit all year long, you know? It doesn't even need to be like this fucking tokenism of like, oh, it's Black History Month, so we donate during this time. It's like, you could do that in July, you could do that in October, September, you could donate to the Asian Pacific Islander community in September. You know, these months are just supposed to be more about awareness, or like, hey, throughout history you haven't really celebrated these people, let's celebrate them. But that doesn't mean that, you know, that's got to be the only time you actually acknowledge these friggin' communities. But anyways, I was going into Boston with my mom, and when I come into Boston, oh my god, that fucking, what's that exit, 123, like the one near Logan Airport? That should be like, the people who made that fucking highway exit should be literally in prison and stoned to death. Obviously I'm joking, let's reel that back. But like, that highway is so impossible. You have to merge, and everyone is trying to merge at the same time. There's people who are douchebags going 60, you know, in a 20-mile-per-hour type of environment because no one can move and it's congested. And it's like, dude, you're gonna get to your spot. Like, you don't have to rush. Like, just be kind and let someone else go through. If everyone took their turns there, it would work perfectly fine. But whenever I go into Boston, sometimes I try to make my way through Mass Ave just to kind of remind myself and humble myself that, you know, life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, and sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. Like, I'm just very fortunate and lucky that I was born when I was born, and I got the parents that I got that, you know, worked hard and told me to go down this path, because that could have easily been me there, you know, shooting up heroin or falling into a bad pattern. And I go over there just to look and be like, hey, sometimes in life you just don't get, you get the short end of the stick, and be grateful for what you have and how far you've come. I mean, I already said it, you know, if you haven't heard, listen to my very first podcast, I explained my background and all that stuff, and where I came from, the shit wasn't easy. My parents made it feel easy, you know? And now I am where I am. You just gotta be grateful sometimes, and sometimes you gotta, like, physically see that to be like, damn, okay. But speak of people who are ungrateful, fucking Quentin Tarantino. I mean, I like this guy to some extent, and you know, some people go, oh, don't shit talk people in Hollywood, you never know. I'll have no problem if I ever meet Quentin Tarantino to tell him, listen, you kind of came off as a douchebag in that interview. Maybe that's not who you are, but that's how you fucking came across. So I was listening to Quentin Tarantino on the Joe Rogan podcast, right? Show, whatever it is, and he was just so douchey. Like, honestly, do people really know this guy or like listen to what he's saying? I mean, everything he said just sounded like he had a stick up his ass. I'm like, dude, like, you think you're the greatest thing to ever fucking touch Earth, don't you? I mean, guys like him and Martin Scorsese are like everything I hate about the industry, where they're just a bunch of has-beens who cry about anything that's new, CGI or whatever. That's like, dude, maybe you should adapt to the times. And you know, both those guys hate Marvel. They just really, really hate Marvel because Marvel actually makes money and make real stories. They found a way to mix commercialization with real, honest stories. And there's just a jealousy and hate there. I mean, this dude was saying that he didn't see the movie Alita because he's like, oh, I'm waiting to see it in 3D. I'm like, what? I mean, this dude, 3D is the biggest scam of all time, and you're telling me you're not going to watch this movie until you can watch it in 3D? You're here to talk babbling about how you hate CGI and Marvel can't be art. I'm like, dude, you're just such a loser, okay? He said if he thinks that if you're not capturing something with a camera, then it doesn't really count. You're not really shooting something. And I'm like, dude, there's more technology. Times have advanced. Times have changed. Just because you didn't learn how to use a computer, you fucking boomer, doesn't mean it's not art. I mean, he's on there talking about how if you're not really in a ship or you're not really in a house, does that count? I'm like, that's the most fucking privileged nonsense I've ever heard. Because if you were really creative, you were really an artist, you would find a way to make things work with less than a budget of $65 million. I mean, he had like a budget of $65 million and barely made it back. Dude made like $95 million with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, that movie really, if you think about it, probably made no money. Because if you break even with all the marketing and the advertising and all that stuff, I'm like, the way he talks, like, this guy walks around like his dick is on the ground, and I'm like, you're really just not crushing it at the box office. And anyone you talk about, hey, have you seen this movie? They go, it sounds familiar, but no. Like, Pulp Fiction is one of the great overrated fucking movies of all time. There, I said it. And only a few people really could say, oh my god, I've seen every Quentin Tarantino movie. And you know what's funny? Is I love Django Unchained. Like, Django Unchained is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. And I can still make this judgment call on Quentin Tarantino the person. But why are we pretending this guy doesn't have a gimmick? Like, he acts like he's so above CGI, and Marvel is a bunch of superhero nonsense, and it's not an Italian spaghetti, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, dude, you literally have a fucking gimmick. Your career is a gimmick. He's a gimmick artist. And he shit talks everyone else as if, like, you know, his shit doesn't stink. You know, if you don't use a 60mm camera, or you don't shoot on scene, then how can you really appreciate the craft? I'm like, dude, your gimmick is literally to blow shit up and blow people's heads off and have blood everywhere and have a car chase scene. That's your gimmick. And just because other people don't want to shoot on scene, it's no longer art. You know what Quentin Tarantino's gimmick is really? It's using the word nigger 15,000 times in his movies. Like, does anyone else think that's weird, right? I don't know, there's something kind of wrong about a guy, a white dude, who makes a script and, like, it's just like, he's like almost fetishizing the words. He's got to say it over and over and over. Well, don't get me started on the feet fetish thing, right? It's just fucking weird to me. And I think a lot of people just like Quentin Tarantino because it's like, oh, well, he's this artiste. You must like Quentin Tarantino. Oh, he's one of the great producers of all time. I'm like, just because people say that shit doesn't mean it is what it is. And again, like I just told you, I love The Hateful Eight. I love Django Unchained. So I can understand why someone likes his movies, but it's not like this dude is fucking batting 100. For you guys who don't know what that means, baseball reference. If you hit the ball 2 times out of 2 times, 3 times out of 3 times, you have 100% accuracy, right? So that means you're batting 100. This dude hasn't made 9 perfect movies. A lot of those movies are like very dragged out. They're long. It's like someone was talking about how he has like he's like, if I really cut it, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood could be like 3.5 hours. I'm like, oh, I can't think of anything more miserable. That fucking movie lasts forever. The best part about that movie is the ending. And I'm not sure, that probably sounds kind of funny. No, the best part about it is like the final act, where all the shit takes place. And then it's just, really, the reason why it's so good is because it's this chaos and fire and flamethrowers and, like, you know, people getting knifed up. And I'm like, there's the gimmick. Every fucking time. Django Unchained is awesome. You love it. You get through it. And at the end, there just has to be this gimmick where Django is just blowing up racist white dudes' heads off. Like, the film did not need that to be successful, but he throws it in every time because that's what he has to do. If you ask the average person too, like, oh, do you prefer Quentin Tarantino or Sam Levinson, who did Euphoria? Guarantee you people choose Sam Levinson because he's more relatable, it reflects society, and doesn't reflect his fucking ego. Like, Quentin Tarantino's ego was just through the roof, man. It was crazy. He was on there talking about how he's like, oh, I don't have to have black people in my movies because, you know, this movie takes place over a 2-day period. Maybe they didn't see Jim Brown. I'm like, the fact that you think in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, someone could go across during, the 60s, 70s, and never come across a black person in 2 days? What the fuck are you talking about?
Easy passwords.
Okay, just making sure, because it says cash rolls.
What it says, how fast you can go. If you go too fast, you get a ticket or something. So
Okay.
if it says to slow down, you slow down. If it
Okay.
doesn't, to
what are you talking about? And then he goes on about Bruce Lee because like everyone got mad. Because, you know, he basically reduced Bruce Lee to this asshole. Which, you know, sometimes art imitates work. You know, he probably was seeing himself in that character. But he's like, oh, well, anyone who has a problem with it, unless you're like Bruce Lee's daughter, you can go fuck off. And I'm like, see, this is the type of reductive bullshit that these quote-unquote creative geniuses think they can get away with. It's like, oh, fuck off, it's my art, I can do whatever I want. And he goes on to talk about how, oh, you know, back in the day, people told me I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and I did it. I'm like, yeah, because you worked with Harvey Weinstein, you creep. Even like, he even said in that podcast, he's like, oh yeah, me and Harvey
Police reported ahead.
Weinstein, I look at him like a fucked up father. Don't we all have fucked up fathers? I'm like, nigga, not me. What the fuck? But anyways, Quentin Tarantino, man, he's just, I don't really know what else I can say about the guy. Like, it's one of those situations, probably kind of similar how people think about Kanye. Like, I love Kanye. I love a lot of things he does. Once in a while, he says something crazy that I don't agree with. But I feel like maybe that's what Quentin Tarantino's like. And just because I think Quentin Tarantino, the person, might be off the rails a little bit and kind of a douchebag, doesn't mean I can't like Quentin Tarantino, the artist, right? I actually do like, you know, a lot of his movies, but you know, when I'm reviewing movies and I'm like suggesting stuff to people, it's like I don't just recommend stuff that I think, oh, this is gonna give me street cred amongst the film community. I don't give a fuck about the film community. I care about everyday people. You know, I'm a salt of the earth type of guy. I want to give recommendations that I can say, hey, my dad might like this, my brother might like this, my sister might like this, my sister-in-law might like this, guy down the street might like this. And to me, you know, a movie like Django Unchained, it's fun, it's awesome, it's got Leo doing his whole thing. It's rewatchable in my opinion. Can I recommend it to everyone? Probably not, because some people don't like the gory stuff. But to me, it's like, you know, there are some pieces out there where I'm like, oh, anyone can enjoy this, like Summer Camp Island. And it's strange how we give weight to someone like Quentin Tarantino because he's like, Oscar winner Quentin Tarantino, scriptwriter, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like this external validation that he gets, so other people are like, oh,